What's up, gang? I want to talk to you today about WordPress, and I want to go over the reasons why, or the reasons why WordPress is a problem, and the places, I'm going to highlight the things in WordPress that have kind of led us to this point where people are disgruntled about the platform, okay? And so a little backstory. In September of 2024, Matt Mulleweg, who's the founder of WordPress, started this huge kerfluffle with WP Engine, the largest hosting provider in the WordPress ecosystem. And it has created a massive rift in the WordPress community. Basically, the future of WordPress is in serious jeopardy because of Matt's actions. And this has led people like me to start creating the platform of the future, what's next after WordPress. And it's also made the WordPress community step back and reconsider what's really going on. Like a lot of people are calling for a change in leadership of WordPress. Other people are calling for a hard fork of the WordPress project. So it'll be something else like Express or something like that. And this would be a new platform, but you'd have everything that WordPress currently has, give it a new name, have a new leadership team, new governance of the platform, and go from there. And the reason I'm doing this video is because I want to show you why those ideas are bad, why just a change in leadership isn't going to cut it, and why a fork is definitely not going to cut it. I've already kind of done a video about why I'm not going to fork the platform, and I mentioned some reasons why it's bad. But I want to go over the specifics about WordPress, the stuff in WordPress that needs to change, okay? And this will, by the end of the video, you'll see like, oh, okay, I kind of see like this stuff needs to go. I see why this stuff in WordPress is bad or wrong. I see why a platform without this stuff would be better, that kind of thing. So I'm gonna go through all the complaints about WordPress and the stuff that I know as a developer who's interfaced with every aspect of WordPress. I can show you, what the weaknesses are, and even provide some insight into what could be better and how things might look in the future. All right, so let's dive in. We're going to start with the WordPress admin. And this is really the #1 complaint that people have. And really the issue is that the WordPress admin is complicated. And it also has been the same for many years. Like it's essentially worked and looked the same way for many years. And a lot of people claim, myself included, that the way the admin works is too convoluted. There's too much stuff going on. Especially for the way most people use WordPress. Okay, so in the admin, you've got all sorts of options here. A lot of stuff going on. You've got posts and pages. I've talked about this before, but this simple convolution between posts and pages is an unnecessary layer of complication. Everything is just a page. Here's a page of my website. No matter what you make, whether it's a post or a page or something else, it's just a page. In the end, it's just a page, okay? So even that distinction is an unnecessary convolution for anyone who just wants to make a basic website with a few pages. Like, if I want to do that, it's not super intuitive because I've got 2 different ways to do it. I got posts, I got pages, what the heck do I do? So that's a simple one, okay? But then within posts, you've got categories, tags, and then taxonomies, which are different ways to organize your content. But categories, tags, and taxonomies all basically serve the same purpose. So you can think back, if you've been around for any length of time, you can think back to the heyday of blogging many years ago, and people would have 500 tags on their site, 35 categories, and it's just different ways of organizing information. Like we don't need, one method of organizing information is enough. Okay, this is about WordPress. This is about basic software. This is about computers. You don't need tags and stuff to go along with that. It's crazy. So that's just extra complication. And then you've got things like appearance, plugins. Appearance, this is where you can interface with your themes if your theme supports all these features. You've got plugins, you've got user management, you've got some other tools that deal with database and other stuff like that, and you've got the site settings. There's just this little area in particular. It's always given me pause. It's like it's hard to figure out where if you just are told, hey, I need to change this setting, it's hard to figure out where to go to change that setting. I've been working with this stuff for almost 20 years, and it's still like someone will say, oh, I want to change this setting, and I have to think for a minute and actually browse around and click on stuff to figure out where the heck it is, because the organization just doesn't make sense. So like general settings, we've got some stuff here. We've got some WordPress URL, site URL. We've got, options for membership, the way dates work on your site. Under writing, we've got weird stuff like formatting. Like these are presented first. This is never even going to come up for most people. Default post category, default post format. What the heck is a post format? Now, I know what it is, but I'm just saying most people don't. Link categories. Does anyone even use link categories? Like the way something like this should work is if you have elected to use a feature, then there will be some options relative to that feature. And ideally, there'd be like a settings page for this feature that you've installed in your site where you would then select these types of options. But these are all presented within the general WordPress options pages, just making it really convoluted. There's too much stuff here. It shouldn't be here. If I'm using these features, then maybe I should have the ability to access and change some of these options. But if I'm not using them, I shouldn't see them at all. So that is evidence of the failure of the design of WordPress. The way WordPress works, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work so that components can be added and that only the controls relative to those components are accessible within the links that component created. It doesn't work that way. The platform has all this stuff built in there, and they just barf it all out onto the page or into the admin, and then you're supposed to fiddle around in here and figure out where you're supposed to go and then change the options that are relevant to you. It's crazy. This is a bad setup. Got more reading options. The same thing applies. I could just give you the exact same explanation for every one of these pages, but it's like, man, most of this stuff, not relevant. Discussion, comments, I'll go on about this in a little bit, the way comments have muddied up this platform and made development more difficult. And that's another point. So WordPress has 1 billion features, right? Most people certainly not using them all. People are using like a small fraction, maybe 10% of all the features that they have access to. But they still have to see the options for 100% of the stuff that's in WordPress. And it's like, man, if we got rid of that 90% I'm not using, suddenly this whole admin could be a lot clearer, a lot simpler, a lot more intuitive, and certainly not like this. And if you develop for the platform, you need to add support for all these features. And the reality is most people are not going to be using them. I've dealt with this for years. I have put so many hours and built so many things that, that people really don't use. It's a total waste of time. But for completeness, so that it all works and, is totally compatible with WordPress, I've spent so much time making sure this stuff can work. And really, in the end, it's for nothing. It's crazy. That's an evidence of bad system design. If you were doing a lot of work that people are never going to use, and you're just doing that in the name of compatibility, well, you're working with a poor system. So that's the way the settings work. There's just junk everywhere. Most of it not relevant to you. And then when you install certain plugins or certain types of functionality, they will add stuff to these menu items, and you got to learn how those work as well. It's just not ideal. Just not ideal. So let's go into to like post and page management. When you go in, you got your little table here where you can see all your stuff. This is fine. I have no issue with this. You got to have some way to access all your stuff and figure out what you want to view or edit or whatever. That's fine. But when we go into the editor, here's more problems, okay? I'm not even showing you the Gutenberg editor. I refuse to use it. It is a failure in design. I have videos, popular videos on this from, I think, 2020, from like March of 2020. You can look at my channel and go find this, but I basically said the title of the video is something like Why Gutenberg Stinks, something like this. And so I'm not even going to show you that. We're just looking at the basic editor, the old classic editor for WordPress, where you got a visual tab and a text tab. And I like the text tab, but I'm fine with the visual too. No big deal. Visual editors are fine. But when we're talking about an editor, again, we've got this issue of all these options that we're probably not going to use, just muddying up this interface, whole lot of stuff. Like, what is all this crap? What is all this crap? You would have to learn all that to be a power user of this platform. And like I said, a lot of it you're not going to use. So what's the point in learning stuff that you're not going to use or being forced to learn stuff that is not relevant? That's crazy. And so that stuff aside, when we're talking about editing content, My view on this, Gutenberg went the other direction. So the direction that I favor is that composing your content and styling it, like adding stuff like this box and this button, all that stuff, a drop cap, inserting picture, having a little drop shadow in the picture, subheadlines, all that stuff. This experience should be like the experience of using a word processor. That's something everybody who's ever used a computer is familiar with and comfortable with. You write something, you decide to add a little style to it. I mean, these are basic functions. And we have basic functions like that. That is what should be favored by a platform whose whole purpose is to create content for the internet. If we have extra layers, like I need like a plugin or something extra just to be able to do some basic formatting and stuff like this, or some crazy interface like that block interface to do basic stuff, you got to scratch your head there and kind of be skeptical. Like, why is all this necessary to do something that is otherwise intuitive and relatively simple? So the editor itself, this editor should work just like a basic word processor. It shouldn't, all this extra crap. I mean, if you're going to have a platform where you create content for the internet, you are going to need some additional options, because you might need to categorize or group content a certain way so you can, access it a different way later or present it in a different way. That's fine. So there's certain aspects of this that are relevant, but most of it is not. Like these are taxonomies that I've added to my site because WordPress has that capability. Never going to use those. You basically need to, to write, to publish, and then a couple other things like setting a parent page or adding an open graph image. These are modern functions of the internet. You need to be able to construct your title tag, which, primarily in the WordPress ecosystem, plugins have been necessary to add this functionality, but this is basic. We're creating a web page. A title tag is a basic function of a web page, as is a meta description. We should already have that baked into the editor. Like if I'm going to create a piece of content and these are like a title tag is an important piece of that content, that should be baked into the editor somehow. I shouldn't need a plugin to do something that is a fundamental function of what we're trying to do. Again, we're trying to create a web page. So the editor, obviously it's been much maligned. That's why Gutenberg came into existence. But the community did not want Gutenberg in 2018. It does not want Gutenberg today because it is a failure. It's a basic failure in design. It is adding this huge layer of conceptual crap to something that, like I said, should be basic and intuitive. Everybody knows how to use a word processor. If your editor is asking people to do all sorts of stuff that's not that, well, then the editor's a failure. This is basic. So the editor is a really big issue with WordPress. I think if WordPress fixed this properly, you'd see a lot of the noise just go away tomorrow. But there's plenty of other implications here. And like I said with the settings pages, like WordPress is built in a poor manner where they kind of have to dump all the crap that's in WordPress into the appropriate places. It doesn't have this elegant way to let you turn features on and off. Or even better, imagine this. If I am creating a simple website, it's just like a 4-page website, and I want to use some software to do this, something like WordPress, it would be best if my admin and everything I could possibly interface with was as simple as possible. As simple as possible. If I'm only creating pages, I don't need to see all this stuff. I don't need to see any of it. I need to see create new page, here's my word processor for the page, and I hit publish. And that's done. But you can't do that with WordPress. Because of the way it's built, it doesn't have that modularity where you can turn components on and off and make it so that, okay, here's the simplest environment possible. Or if I'm running a complex website with e-commerce, that, those features are loaded in, and then I only see that stuff that's relevant to what I'm trying to do. So the evidence of WordPress's poor design is everywhere. It's evident in these ways. And if you know what you're looking at, or if you've got a guide like me to explain these to you, you can kind of see into the code without actually having to look at it and say, it's probably bad. It's probably not organized very well. It's probably not set up in a way that is extensible and flexible and that really works for people. So the editor is a massive, massive problem. As is the admin in general, and it's all for the same reasons. It's because of the way WordPress is built. It's called spaghetti code, okay? There in programming, this quick aside, there is object-oriented programming, which the whole thing with object-oriented programming is not some magic. It's not like that. It is just a really organized way to build a system where everything has its own little box, its own compartment. And if you aren't using it, then you're not going to see, if you're not using this one box, you won't see anything about that box. You won't see any of the options. You won't see any of the effects. It won't have any effect on your pages. It'd be like it's not there. So that's what object-oriented programming enables. But spaghetti or functional programming is not organized. It doesn't have any of the organizational benefits that object-oriented programming has. And then that makes it really, really difficult to change or modify or improve the software over time. It is a very, elementary or like really basic way of coding. Like no one serious would do this, but that is indeed how WordPress works. And unfortunately, the biggest shock of my career as a developer has been to learn that almost all the software we use and interface with, I mean all of it, most of it is written in this broken spaghetti code sort of way. So that stinks. That tells me that the people who are responsible for the software that we use don't really understand coding. That is not a good thing. You want the people building your software to really be geniuses about this stuff. That would be better. If they really understood it, then the elegance would be evident in the software. But WordPress, the anti-elegance, is what is evident everywhere you look. Now, that's enough about the admin. Let's go to the front side, okay? So on the front side here, when a page shows, and I've done other videos about this, the WordPress template system for themes, okay, the WordPress theme system is no system at all. I should pull up the file. I'm not going to do it here. I didn't plan on this, but the WordPress theme system is a single file in the WordPress core that is just a big if-else statement. If the page is this, then we look in the template directory on your server for a file that's named a certain way, and if we find it, then we run that file. That's how the template system works. That's called a file-driven template system. It's no system at all. The work is entirely up to the person creating the theme to make sure that their theme is exhaustive and includes all the functionality that they're going to need for web pages to work properly. So it's giving no leverage to the theme developer. And one of the consequences is that you, the end user, if you wanted to make changes, you would have to go in and mess with those files on your server. That's just a bad recipe. It's a bad recipe because, like, for example, if you screw up something when you're editing a file, your site won't work, and then you got to fix the error before things will work again. Number two, why are we asking people to go into the code? If we can keep people out of code, that's what we got to do. Number three, people don't want to interface with code. I am an expert coder. I still would prefer not to interface with code if I could avoid it. It'd be better if you have interfaces, UIs for these types of things. And so here's an example of, so I built in 2012, well, years leading up to 2012, and then also all the way through 2014, and still to today, I built and have refined a true template system called Thesis for WordPress. And so instead of having files and junk in your server, you could have templates that can be edited in a UI like this. I can switch over to the page template, and here's boxes. These end up outputting HTML. So I've got boxes in my templates, and I just organize it like this. I can move stuff around. I can change the position of things. I can add things. I can remove things. This is a way to construct templates visually using components that have been loaded into the software. And then I only need the UI to do it, and I can make all these changes, and I can affect what displays on the front end of my website. I can do it that way. Now, this is not even something that end users would really want to be messing with. It's there if you wanted to, if you had the capability and you feel comfortable doing this, but even the developers themselves should be building templates, themes like this, and not with files, okay? This is a data-driven theme system. When you save this template, it doesn't create a file, it just saves data to your database. And then when a page is called up on your front end, that information gets pulled from the database, the template information, and then the template outputs based on what the information says it's supposed to do. That's actual computer science. The WordPress template system is not that. The WordPress template system is a handoff. Just says, here you go, good luck. And go write some code. Hopefully it's right. And there's plenty of other downstream effects there, like if you want to change something with this, you can change it in one place, it will change in all places. But with the file-driven system, if something exists on 3 different templates, well, you have to go into each of those 3 templates, make the exact same change, save them all, and then boom, you've done it. So you can take one action and make all those changes, or X number of actions to create the exact same change in a file-driven system. I think it's clear that the data-driven system is far superior. There's a million other things. I don't want to go into this, but WordPress completely derelict on this facet of the system. There is no theme system in WordPress, so they didn't even build that, okay? Took me years to build that. It's a complicated thing. Another thing is the plugin architecture. I have another video about this. I will link it in the description if you're watching on YouTube. I will link it in a reply if you're watching this video on X. But the bottom line is, well, I have a video that describes the failures of the WordPress plugin system and also shows you what the WordPress plugin could be like and what your development experience would be like if the WordPress plugin system had been built in a modular, extensible way, if it had been built in the right way. But again, that's not the case. Nothing in WordPress is built the right way. It's all ad hoc, pieced together after the fact, and there's never been any chance or opportunity to refine it all. And this is another thing. And this is a reason why forks are never going to work. This is a reason why change in leadership is ineffective. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's leading it. If it's a turd, it doesn't matter if you have the best leader in the world, the leader is still leading a turd. So you have to fix the turd. You can have any leader you want in there. It's not going to make any difference at all. Elon Musk could take over WordPress tomorrow, and if the platform code remained the same, it would still suck just as much as it does right now. So what is happening is we have reached a point. Where, quick, we got to backtrack real quick. So WordPress can't fix itself. You could sit here and say, well, why don't we just rewrite parts of the WordPress architecture to be right? Well, the problem is nothing would work the way it worked before. Everything that currently exists for WordPress would immediately be obsolete, all themes and all plugins. That's not ideal. When you're running a platform at scale, that's not an option. So this is a point that's not well understood in software development. Or in distributed software, like having a big business like WordPress, running it over 20 years, something like that. What you cannot do is launch and have people using it at scale before the platform is ready. If you do, you then have to create what's called legacy code to make things work for the people who started originally and all the people in the future. All these people who started originally need this legacy code to keep their stuff alive and keep it working so they don't have to do this thing where they have to replace every component in their system. Because if somebody had to do that, they'd just stop using the platform. So it is crucial. It is crucial. I can't stress this point enough. It is crucial to nail the basic functionality in the best possible way before distributing the software at scale. You got to get it right. Because if you don't get it right, you're then forced to have legacy code to keep stuff working over time. And that legacy code is costly. It's ugly. You can never have the flexibility that you'd have in a properly designed system. You lose that flexibility. It becomes calcified, and then you have all this junk. And that junk, legacy type code, compatibility code, adaptability code, all that stuff, it's ugly. It's not, it doesn't follow the rules of proper system design. It's just like you're doing spot fixes, like saying, oh, this needs to be patched up, so you do this, and it's a messy little patch. All that stuff doesn't integrate into the system in a really holistic, beautiful way. So it just creates a mess. And the problem is you can never clean up that mess. You can never clean up the mess. The mess is only going to get bigger over time. So that's a problem. If you ran this to infinity, the mess would get so big it would overwhelm the software and it would eventually stop working. I don't know how many years that would take, but the bottom line is you don't want to get on that death spiral. You always want to avoid that if possible. And when we're talking about something like this, if we are building websites, we know we're going to build millions and millions of websites. Just a thought experiment here. Just step away from what you know. Think about the fact that we want to build something, a platform, that's going to be used to build millions of websites. Well, then it is incumbent upon whoever is building this system to make sure All the basic functionality is built exactly the right way. Otherwise, these problems will pop up in the future. It's like an eternal game of whack-a-mole where these problems keep coming up and all the fixes are just messy and nothing's ever elegant. It doesn't all fit together. And then the thing just becomes uglier and more of a mess over time. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. So, and you know, I guess the corollary to this is that if you have a system that's already broken, you can't fix it. You can only fix it if nobody's using it and the changes you make aren't going to affect a bunch of users. In software development, we call those breaking changes. We want to avoid introducing breaking changes. And what a breaking change is if I introduce something new in the software, an update or something like that, and it breaks stuff that already exists and forces people to take action to correct those things or fix those things that are broken, that is a breaking change. That is a huge no-no that must be avoided. That's like the cardinal sin of distributed software. You do that, you piss people off, they leave the platform. So WordPress does not have a chance to fix the mistakes of the past. It's over. And if you forked WordPress and you had this grandiose idea that you were indeed going to fix these things that are broken, what you would find is an entanglement and a mess that cannot be unraveled and fixed. You can talk about it romantically. Oh, we'll just fix these things that are wrong with WordPress and we'll keep going. No, you won't. You will be working the rest of your life in hell and you will never fix the problem because it cannot be fixed. So, now that we have reached this point, the only option, the only way out is not leadership, it is not a fork, it is not fixing WordPress because it's not possible. The only way out is a new platform that is designed properly from the ground up. So I'm going to go through just a couple things that that are going to be facets of the software that I'm building to replace WordPress. And I want to point out some things that are not going to be present, some things that are. I've already kind of shined a light on some of this stuff. But for example, you're just going to have the ability to create pages right out of the gate. This is not going to be blogging software. One thing that's implied by blogging software, you're going to be able to create pages, but like comments. Fam, I can't tell you how much time I spent in my early days developing themes and stuff, incorporating comments and the design elements for comments, and the comment, just serving comments, the comment management system, all the stuff that exists in WordPress. It is a lot. This is a huge chunk of WordPress dealing with comments. Well, nobody even does this anymore. Comments are reserved for social media. So this is a thing that doesn't need to exist, and yet every single theme developer who builds something for WordPress has to accommodate these comments or else their stuff's not really fully compatible with WordPress. And so all these developers are spending all this time still on design stuff for comments, figuring out naming conventions, all this stuff, incorporating all that code, all of that kind of thing. And it's something people barely even use anymore. People barely even blog anymore. So my system's not going to have that stuff. There's no reason to keep carrying this stuff along, especially if it's heavy. And comments are extremely heavy. My God. And so are posts. So are the tags and taxonomies. I'll grant that you need categories. I'm just going to call them groups. I don't even like the name categories. You can group posts together or pages on your website. I might say that, these pages are for how-tos. These are documentation. These are, some series I created, five pages that are connected in a series, so to speak, and they can be grouped that way. Hopefully you see what I mean. That's like the most basic, you create in a word processor type environment, and maybe you add a group or two so that you can spool these up on the front end of your website somewhere. You could look at an archive, a faux archive, and it could be, everything that's in your what's hot right now group. Okay, so you can still do that. That functionality is going to be present, but we don't need all these extra layers, tags, taxonomies, all this crap. No. That's crazy. It's crazy. This appearance themes, this would be totally different. I don't even do this. I've got a separate admin panel for controlling the theme that's on my site. It's got a lot more pertinent options like design options, things like that. So it'll be stuff that's more, the stuff you're able to access in the interface is going to be directly pertinent to what you're trying to do. Most people want to interface with their theme in some way and change what's there. Most people don't want to mess with WordPress options. That's crazy. It's really your theme and your plugins, and that's the options you're setting and messing with. So really the admin should be pages, a way to control your theme, and another way to interface with all the plugins that are installed on your site. Anything else is overkill. It's just the way it is. If we want to simplify these things, that's what it's going to look like. Another thing I've already sort of hinted at is that the way WordPress is built is faulty. It's inflexible, and you can't. It's not modular. You can't insert components, remove components very easily. You can do that with plugins, but not everything is described by a plugin. The WordPress core itself contains so much stuff; it's almost hard to comprehend. And that stuff can't be tiptoed around, and you just get the whole kitchen sink whether you want it or not. So the platform of the future, though, will be fully modular in that respect. So if you add something, you'll then have means to control it, but you will not see extra stuff that you're not going to be using. You will always be able to tailor your environment to exactly the functionality that you use. So another thing that comes up with this is that it's harder because of the way the WordPress admin works. It's only gotten harder and harder over time to explain that to people or to introduce to new people how to use it. So if you have like a company and some teams or whatever and multiple people interfacing with your website, they all need to be educated on how WordPress works, and that's an idiosyncratic mess. Something that's much more intuitive, you really wouldn't have to teach very much. People could go in, get their feet wet, and figure out how it works. But WordPress increasingly makes that impossible. So that's a huge problem. Obviously, that's a problem. So we want to increase intuitiveness. We want to make it easier for people to intuitively figure out how the heck to use their site, to use the software that runs their site. We want to make things way more flexible. So like the WordPress admin's stuck like this. You can't really change it easily. That's why you don't see, there's not any plugins that have really dominated through the years that like redesign the WordPress admin or make it favorable to work with. It's because it's too freaking difficult because WordPress isn't built the right way. You can't really do it. So nobody does it. So all these problems can be fixed with good software, and I am fixing them right now. But I hope you see now that it is necessary to move away from WordPress to fix these problems. This is just, look, all of my stuff, all the stuff that makes me money, all of my businesses, everything right now runs on WordPress. My life would be easier if I didn't have to change away from this. It's just a fact. It would be easier if I didn't have to do anything. But the way this stuff has unfolded over time and the recent actions with WordPress leadership and the general consternation of the community as a whole have led us to a point where we have to jump. We have to take the leap. I'm not saying you have to leave WordPress right now. I'm not saying that. WordPress is going to continue to work for years. If your sites are already running on WordPress, you need a really good reason to jump ship. I think you're probably unwise to do so. I'm not jumping ship yet. No way. But this new platform must emerge. We have reached an impasse where this is the only logical next step. So I am taking that logical next step. I'm doing so for two reasons. Number one, I know it's time to do it. Well, three reasons. Number two, I've spent tons of time in this. I understand what needs to happen. I know what needs to happen, and I know how to do it. And the third thing is, I want to work in paradise. I want to work in paradise. With my software, Thesis and Focus, and creating e-commerce websites right now with MemberPress, I've created an environment that's really, really great to work with compared to a basic, someone else working with WordPress and those same components. My environment to work with is great, relatively speaking. And I love that I get to work in paradise. But at the same time, I also see all the places within my system that I've built on top of WordPress where it could be better. And it's only being held back because of WordPress. So I already have gotten a taste of working in paradise, and I see how much better it could be even than that. And so I am very driven, very excited to take us there. If you haven't done that, if you've just been mired in WordPress forever, you can't even imagine what it's like to work in paradise. But I can. I have seen it. And I want to bring that to everybody because it's so much better. It's like it's two different worlds. It's not even the same thing. It's a lineage. Yeah, they started with this, but we're going to go to something that you can't even imagine yet. The simplicity, the flexibility, the the potential for creativity, all of that. It's just going to be so much better. The ease of teaching it to new people, the way we're going to be able to use intuition, to allow people to leverage their own intuition to use this platform. So there is a paradise on the other side of this. I promise. I've seen it. And I am building the new platform that is going to make that a reality for everyone, okay? So I hope you understand that there is no fixing WordPress. Leadership isn't going to do it. There is no way to fix the code. There is no way out from here. The only way out is a new platform, the phoenix that emerges from the ashes of WordPress, all right? Stay tuned. I'm bringing you that phoenix. It's exciting. It's paradise. See you in the next video.